Why 1930s motorcycle racing was the most dangerous sport. Imagine roaring engines, reckless speed, and tracks so dangerous that buying a ticket meant witnessing near-certain disaster. Welcome to the 1930s, an era when motorcycle racing wasn't just a sport, it was a death wish. Helmets? Optional. Brakes? Barely there. Every race was a showdown between skill, luck, and sheer survival. Fatal crashes were routine, yet the crowds couldn't get enough. So why did these riders risk it all? And what made 1930s motorcycle racing the most dangerous sport in history? Let's dive in, but maybe wear a helmet just in case. The rise of 1930s motorcycle racing. By the 1930s, motorcycles had evolved from motorized bicycles into high-speed racing machines. Manufacturers like Harley-Davidson, Indian, and Velocette were producing powerful engines that could reach speeds of over 100 miles per hour. With streamlined designs, better suspension systems, and lightweight frames, riders could push their limits like never before. One of the most terrifying racing formats? Board track racing. These oval circuits, built entirely of wooden planks, were steeply banked to allow for higher speeds. But safe? Not a chance. Over time, the wooden boards would warp, crack, and even develop deadly gaps. A simple mistake at high speeds could send a rider skidding across rough planks, or worse, flying straight into the air. Oh, and the bikes had no brakes. What could go wrong? Pileups were common, injuries were gruesome, and fatalities were frequent. By the late 1930s, board track racing was banned due to its terrifying death toll, but not before claiming countless lives. Want to see just how wild board track racing was? We've got a full video covering its history. Click the link up here. Then there were the dusty dirt tracks, where racers faced a different kind of chaos. These tracks were uneven, covered in loose gravel, and wildly unpredictable. Riders had to deal with low visibility from massive dust clouds, making it nearly impossible to see the competitors ahead. It was like racing blindfolded, except at 100 miles per hour. The key to mastering dirt track racing was broadsiding, a technique where riders slid their bikes around corners at high speeds. This became wildly popular in the US, especially in events like the American Motorcycle Association National Championship. Fierce rivalries formed between racers willing to risk it all for victory. Legends like Joe Petrali and Ed Ironman Kretz pushed the limits, thrilling spectators who came for the speed, and maybe for the crashes. With no protective gear beyond thin leather suits and flimsy helmets, even a minor fall could lead to broken bones, concussions, or worse. It wasn't just racing, it was survival. Now, picture yourself flying down a track at 100 miles per hour with zero visibility. What would you do? Let us know in the comments. Deadly tracks and dangerous conditions. Unlike modern tracks, which have safety barriers, fencing, and runoff areas, racers in the 1930s had, well, nothing. Lose control, and you weren't just crashing, you were launching into the audience. Spectators stood just feet from the action, making them almost as vulnerable as the riders. And let's talk about the gear, or the lack thereof. Riders wore basic leather jackets, goggles, and that's it. No helmets, no knee pads, no spine protectors, just vibes and a death wish. The leather jackets weren't even the heavy-duty kind we see today. They were thin and offered about as much protection as a paper towel. And the goggles? They were there to keep the dust out of your eyes, not to prevent a concussion. As for the bikes, they were essentially overpowered death traps. No proper brakes, just throttles to slow down. That's right. Imagine trying to stop a speeding motorcycle by easing off the gas. It was like trying to stop a runaway train with a feather. The result? Crashes that were not just frequent, but fatal. Hit the like button if you think racing today is slightly safer than this madness. The high death toll. During this era, it was common for at least one rider to die in major races. Some events, like the Isle of Man TT, saw multiple fatalities every year. Between 1911 and 1939, more than 50 riders lost their lives in this single race alone. The Daytona 200 was another notorious death trap, thanks to loose sand and unpredictable turns. Some of the most tragic cases include Jimmy Simpson, a British racer who suffered a fatal crash at the Isle of Man TT, and Sprouts Elder, an American rider who died in a horrifying accident during a board track race. These wooden tracks, often called murder-dromes, became infamous for splintering boards, high-speed crashes, and bikes bursting into flames. Despite the risks, crowds of 50,000 or more gathered to watch, captivated by the sheer danger of it all. Newspapers sensationalized deadly crashes, turning racers into daredevil legends. Some fans saw them as heroes, while others just came for the carnage. So, why'd they do it? For the thrill, the glory, and the love of the sport. The end of an era and legacy. By the late 1930s, the extreme danger of motorcycle racing forced major changes in the sport. The introduction of safety measures in the 1940s and 50s changed everything. Full-face helmets, padded racing suits, and gloves became mandatory, drastically reducing injuries. Tracks were redesigned with smoother surfaces, barriers, and runoff zones to keep racers from flying into the stands. Instead of open-road death races, closed-circuit tracks became the new standard, making events far safer. But the legacy of 1930s motorcycle racing still lives on. It paved the way for modern motorsports, inspiring everything from MotoGP to extreme dirt bike racing. Today's top riders, like Valentino Rossi and Marc Marquez, owe their careers to those early daredevils who risked it all. The Isle of Man TT, though much safer today, still holds the record as one of the most dangerous races in the world, with over 260 recorded fatalities since its inception in 1907. Ultimately, the 1930s were a turning point. They showed the world both the thrill and the dangers of high-speed racing. And while today's sport is far safer, the fearless spirit of those early racers remains unmatched. And that's the wild story of 1930s motorcycle racing. Today, motorcycle racing is a billion-dollar industry, but it all started with those early daredevils who risked everything for speed, an era where bravery, or maybe recklessness, was the ultimate badge of honor. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most dangerous sports, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible motorsports stories. And tell us in the comments, what shocked you the most about 1930s motorcycle racing? We'd love to hear your thoughts. See you in the next video!